Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Life Force Academy Immersion. This is our most popular event every year, and it's coming right up, and it's my personal favorite event of the year. I always think this is the most powerful, transformative, joyful event we do every year. And I think this year it will be the same in that sense. But for the first time ever, you can attend this event. You can be part of it from anywhere in the world. We are presenting it virtually for 2020. We're turning our homes into our retreat centers. We have a lot of cool things that are in the works for this, and I'm very excited for it. It's happening June 4th through the 7th, but you can also attend on your own schedule on demand or live. Life Force Academy Immersion. You can learn more by just going to my website, jaidev.yoga. That's the URL, jaidev.yoga. And you can find more out about it there. Life Force Immersion, live music by Simrit. Special guest teacher that you've heard on this podcast before will be joining us on the Friday and Saturday evening. It's going to be a very, very special event and invite you to join us. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you haven't yet subscribed to The Jai Dave Show, please do so wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and so forth. Enjoy the podcast. Hey, greetings, friends. This is Jai Dave. Hope you're doing well out there. What a strange and wonderful and fascinating time to be alive. Sending lots of love and good vitality to you and to your families. We have a real cool and unique episode of the podcast today. This is the first of 4 episodes we're releasing that were recorded this past February at Envision Festival in Costa Rica. And we were going to release these shortly after the festival, but it was just after that festival when we came home that really the coronavirus hit this part of our world. And so everything flipped upside down for a while there, and we're getting back around now to sharing these with you, and very happy to do so. And my guest for this first episode is Rachel Brathen. You may know her as Yoga Girl, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. I want to set the stage a little bit for you, though, so you can kind of understand the context of Envision and where the setting was for this recording, for this conversation that we had. This was my second year teaching at Envision Festival. I really do love this festival. Not only is it a beautiful dance party in the jungle, psychedelic dance party, but there's a lot that goes on there, from education and permaculture education and yogic teachings and herbalism and all sorts of good things. It's a waste-free festival. You can't really even find trash cans there, and people know that. You come in and bring your own utensils, you bring your own bowls. Sometimes a slice of pizza will be served on a banana leaf, that type of thing. And I'm personally just really inspired by that. It's like, oh yeah, we can do that. In every area we would find our own way to, kind of be in harmony with the land. And this is, wow, if we're not learning that now, I don't know that if we ever will, because the earth is crying out, and we can do this. It's really not sacrificing that much. In fact, we gain so much from being in harmony with nature. And while there would need to be some important changes in our habits as societies and as cultures, we would get so much out of it. It would be just worth it immediately. And then we're helping to preserve life for our children and their children, so forth and so on. So anyhow, that's the vibe at Envision. It has that. Beautiful people come. We're in Costa Rica. It's so gorgeous. It's hot in the jungle. Most people always have a fan during the daytime and even at nighttime, just to keep a little breeze on you to keep cool. And this year we had the Life Force Academy Lounge was built at Envision Festival. So there's 2 main yoga halls at Envision, and in between those 2 yoga halls was the Life Force Academy Lounge this year, and it was really fun. And part of what we did in there was a few different times. We recorded live podcasts in front of a small audience who was in there, and Rachel was the first guest on the podcast that was recorded at Envision. And I didn't know Rachel very well, or really at all. I think we had met very briefly the year before at Envision Festival. I certainly knew of her, but I didn't know much about her. I didn't know much of her story. The night before interview, or having the podcast, kind of an interview, it's kind of a conversation, I watched a TED Talk that she did about her life and about how her social media presence really blossomed. It's not about social media as much as it's about vulnerability, being authentic, sharing the stories. I found her to be an inspiring sister. I found her to be real genuine, and I think if you're not familiar with her, I think you'll enjoy being familiar with her. And those of you who follow Rachel, I think you'll enjoy hearing from her in this podcast, hearing a little bit of her life stories. It's a bit of a shorter episode for us, but it was cool, it was fun, it was real casual, but Envision's loud. So even during the daytime, we have on both sides of us 2 different halls. There's all sorts of things going on. It's noisy in the background. It's just a scene, but it's a lot of fun. And so without further ado, here's the episode with Yoga Girl. Check her out, yogagirl.com's her website, her social media. Just search Yoga Girl, you'll find her. Instagram. And thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Rachel, for being a part of it. And enjoy the episode, everyone. Okay, welcome, everybody. Rachel, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I've known about you for a while, like kind of just on the periphery, and noticed something cool was going on. and I just recently learning a little more, but I don't know a lot, and so I'm excited to just meet you a little more today. Yeah, and I thought this would be a nice way to do it.
I took your class last year here at Envision. It was my favorite one of the festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
There was no space. I was in the back in the dirt. It was great.
That's awesome. Cool. I'll have to try to get into one of yours this year. You like teaching here?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Once I'm in it, I enjoy the element of not knowing anything that's going to happen in my surroundings. But prior to, I always have to let my controlling side mellow out a little bit. But once I'm here, it's the best.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I like to know what's going on. I like to be able to control an element of my classes in terms of creating sacred space. So not knowing if someone's going to barge in at any moment, or music over here.
Right.
Screaming. Yeah. I had this was many years ago, but I had a butt naked, very, kind of drunk guy walk in mid-class a couple years ago and what's up?
Oh, no.
But then it becomes part of the thing you remember as what an experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. It's so hot here too. This is the one place where butt naked is a little more okay I get it.
Yeah.
That's cool. You live in Aruba though.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Super small. Yeah. It's not a tropical island. People think it's like Costa Rica. It's not. It's arid. It's where I live. It kind of looks like you're on Mars. It's all big boulders and rocks, and everything that grows can kind of hurt you. We have a lot of cacti and aloe and white sandy beaches. Gorgeous
and
water.
How did you end up there?
My husband's from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's his place. He's native.
Wow.
His whole family's from there. It's the only way you end up on a Caribbean island. in my book, it's like you fall in love with someone and you stick around. I don't know.
It sounds like a good story.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
Sweden.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, born and raised.
And then how do you end up with is it Arubian, the right?
Aruban.
Aruban.
It is, yeah.
Aruban gentleman. Yeah.
Aruban gentleman. I left Sweden when I was 18 and I moved here.
To Costa Rica. Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to backpack. I had a 3-month backpacking type of plan. And then I made it from Montezuma down the coast to Dominical. And 2 days in Dominical, I announced I'm not going to go home.
You're a teenager at that time?
I was 18, yeah.
Yeah.
And I stayed almost 3 years.
Wow, so this is kind of like a special part of the world for you right here, Dominical area.
Yeah. I have family, friends who are family here. We have a lot of community here, so it's coming home, kind of.
Were you into yoga at that point?
I was into meditation at that point. My introduction to this whole, the beginning of my journey was through Osho.
Uh-huh.
So I did a lot of Osho-style groups and primal retreats and that kind of work. When I came here and had my first introduction to asana here,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested in a little how did you get from there to there? But did you grow up spiritual background? Was your family religious or oriented to that at all?
Not at all.
So
no.
When you came to Costa Rica and you're what do you think, at least in retrospect, what do you think drew you to what you ended up doing?
I think it's a hard question. I definitely Sweden as a country, they say Sweden is the least spiritual country in the world, or one of the least spiritual countries in the world. People almost pride themselves in saying that they're not religious.
It's very secular.
Very secular, very, we don't really have baptism. There's no presence of church or religion, and at least in my upbringing, not at all. So I didn't grow up with that sense in any way. And I had kind of a dark, challenging childhood with a lot of addiction and loss and separation and depression and just heavy things that were kind of edging my path all throughout my childhood. And I remember I got to a place when I was a teenager. I was 16, 17, drinking every day, smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, deeply unhappy. And it was my mom, actually, who had a moment of I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was either you're out of here, I can't deal with you, or you go to this meditation retreat that I found. It's like a grace from God somehow. And I was just going to turn 17, and I had never, had no community of that kind. I had never had a moment of silence in my life, but something inside of me kind of tugged at okay. And I went, and it completely changed my life. Yeah.
Was that in Costa Rica?
No, in Sweden still.
In Sweden still.
In Sweden
I see.
Still, yeah.
Wow.
I was the youngest one there. It was this super. I don't know if you know a lot about Bhagwan and the primal style retreats.
I do.
Yeah. So I did his primal group,
That's
which was
cool. Wild. I bet.
Very wild.
Yeah.
Radical.
Amazing.
Thing. But it was what I needed apparently because it brought me here. Yeah.
Almost like the polarity of where you had been.
Oh yeah.
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 And that's cool. That's cool that your mom suggested that.
Yeah. She's my grace and my struggle and my,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So then when you begin asana practice and yoga practice, so let me change a little bit of that direction. What is it what do you currently right now in regards to yoga? What is it that is inspiring you the most in terms of a practice or how you're teaching or how you're connecting with your students? What is it currently that is giving you juice?
I'm in this big, I think, life-changing part of my life right now. I've had a lot of years of going full force, teaching as much as I could possibly teach, back-to-back retreats and trainings, and really had this fire that was almost insatiable of just I have to go out there and do this work, to the point where I spent years not saying no to anything. If any opportunity came, it's great, I get to teach there, let's go. I get to travel there, let's go. I get to offer something, let's go. Which was all wonderful and easy and would flow until I had a baby.
Yeah.
which I thought somehow we were building a studio in Aruba where we live. And I built in, like next to our shala, I have an office, and I built a baby room into our studio because I had this actual idea that all of my work I'm going to continue doing 180 miles per hour while nursing an infant. And I really thought that that's going to be so easy, it's going to be this fluid thing. And it wasn't, not at all. So she's 3 now. It's taken me literally 3 years to realize that the pace I've been moving at hasn't been sustainable. And actually, by continuing to teach while feeling torn, that I actually want to be somewhere else or move at a different pace. It's changed me completely, and what I need is a break. So I think what I'm teaching now is a very different type of practice, because I'm practicing something totally different.
Yeah, you're teaching from what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
I understand that. Well, I don't understand it as a mother, but I understand it as a person who is still learning how to say no to things. And I have a 14-year-old, and but as a father, like now it's a time of his life where I really feel another level of pull to be around him more often. I've been around him a lot, but he doesn't want to travel with us anymore. And my wife is touring musician always, not always, but she has times in the year where she's all over the world. I have times of the year I'm all over the world. And so figuring out that balance of it's really just like, I want to be with him. It's not like I want to be doing traveling, like as much as it's like amazing to be here in like Costa Rica with all these people, and I'm enjoying pretty much every moment of it. I didn't want to come, because
same.
Yeah.
It's the best experience ever.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to go.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because of family, cozy family at home. And I just got home the week before from another teaching, so I got a few days. So I understand that it's like, but it's a beautiful struggle. Yeah. Because it opens my heart up so much, and that's to me that's the glory of just being a yogi, is that the struggles just make you deeper in love.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It does. And I know if I was home all the time, like stay-at-home mom, spending every waking hour with her, it wouldn't be as intensely, urgent somehow. Yeah. So for me, like I bring my daughter here, but then we have a retreat and we're busy all day. Yesterday I saw her an hour all day, and it's like my heart is breaking open a little bit all the time, which also allows me to teach from that place of being really vulnerable. Yeah. So we can open up another kind of space in the group that I couldn't if I was just rock solid all the time.
For sure. Yeah. It's a blessing. Yeah. These babies are always a blessing. I feel that.
And like just coming here, I'm like, we were at the little pirate ship, spaceship kids zone over there, and I said, Mama's gonna go record a podcast, and she says, one more swing, and I said, okay, that's the last one, then we gotta go. And she fell off the swing face first in the dirt, split her lip open, blood, and I'm like, okay, this day is done, like we're gonna go home. And then she's fine, she like runs away, she doesn't even notice, she's no pain, nothing. All the things she experienced, I experienced times 1,000. Like that's how I feel. And I it's like my inner child has to catch up with like, oh, we're okay. Okay, I can still go do this podcast. Like everything's fine, but it's a ride. Just being a parent, it's a ride.
Totally. Yeah, you learn a lot from her, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're so in the moment, right? Like if I fell off that swing and hit my lip.
It's the thing. Yeah. Like, EMT, like, is this fine? Yeah. She's like, no, it doesn't hurt. Like, let's go. Yeah, it did hurt. Now it doesn't. In the present moment, keep flowing. We're okay. Yeah, that's cool. And so, how you have an impressive audience, that follows you, and so how are you most often, because you're in Aruba, how are you most often connecting with the people who learn from you, students or people who are inspired by? Is it largely online? It doesn't feel like it's largely online because I spent 20, sometimes 25 weeks a year immersed in groups. So retreats and trainings is half of my year. So I'm almost always in some form of community with people who have found me through the online space. But that's, of course, a small portion. We take 50 to 60 people in a group. And then I have a lot more than that who follow along online. So podcasts for me is my favorite way to to share.
Cool. What's your podcast so people know how to look it up?
Yeah, thanks. It's the Yoga Girl podcast.
Yeah.
You can find it everywhere. I do 6 of them a week. So we have a daily one with like little.
And how long are they usually?
The daily ones are just 5 minutes long, and then I have a weekly one that's an hour.
Cool.
Yeah.
5 minutes, bite size.
Bite size, like we do a gratitude practice every Thursday, a meditation every Wednesday, intention setting on Mondays. Like there's something new.
It's such a great brand, Yoga Girl.
Thanks.
How was that? Where did that come from?
I don't know. It wasn't an intentional thing that I sat down one day and thought, I'm going to create this thing. But I was living in Aruba, teaching on the beach. Like I had a little local community there. And then I started an Instagram account on a whim, personal thing, where I was like posting photos of my breakfast and my dog and like how everybody does Instagram kind of. And I chose the name Yoga Girl because I was doing a lot of yoga and it just came to me and it grew and became a sort of social media
phenomenon.
Yeah. And now is more of a, I don't identify a lot with the idea of a influencer and social media. I actually have a really hard time with that.
You don't come across that way.
It's not my my jam.
Yeah. You seem to me, from my outer perspective, very genuine and very, I don't get any sense of pretentiousness.
Oh, thanks.
You know, it's one reason why I was led to connect with you.
But it's hard, you know, like, I don't know how you feel living in that kind of, or sharing in that kind of space.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
I watched on YouTube this morning because I wanted to learn a little more about you before we were talking today. So I watched this TED Talk you did.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was really good.
Thanks.
And I recommend it. Rachel is this TED Talk where she talks about social media largely and your journey with it. Yeah. Folks can watch it, but it was the essence where I got out of it. First of all, a beautiful story.
Thank you.
And very touching. And but just vulnerability, being genuine is what really created the momentum, that you, and even on a business level and on your, how would you describe it? Yeah,
it's hard to describe because it's not something you can really mimic or decide to do. And it's how I do things still today. I need to feel inspired to share, and that inspiration always comes from some moment of vulnerability. Either me feeling total joy for some reason, or having a realization, learning something, or more often than not, it's going through something really shitty, like something hard, something that, man, I can't figure this out. And I write from that place. It helps me heal. Writing has always been this big part of my life, and then I just share that. And I realized if I share in that way, then I can exist online. I don't have to be this persona. I don't have to put on a hat or a mask. I can just be who I am, which makes it easier to sustain.
Because people are going to put you on a pedestal no matter what, and you can't control that. But you can a little bit, in the sense of when we're being more vulnerable and genuine and showing a human. To me, that's one of the more challenging things to navigate as a teacher, is just there's like the projections of how people see us, you, me, anyone, versus what's really going on.
Right.
You know, and
so how much of that do we share?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
keeping it real.
Yeah, and then for some people, it's a super scary, terrifying thing. And I know a lot of people out there who are in this space also as teachers or leaders in some form that feel like, I have to be this person who has it together, because how else can I inspire? I got to do it right. I got to look this way. I got to teach this way. I got to practice this way. When actually what's inspiring is when we tumble and we fall, and how we get back up, or everything that just makes other people be reminded of the fact that they're not alone. And that's what I look at when I am choosing, who to engage with online. It's always that, like, oh man, like, you're insecure about this thing. Me too. Thank God. I'm not alone. I'm not weird. It's that recognition all the time. And without it, I wouldn't be on Instagram. I mean, I wouldn't be able to sustain that.
Right. It would get boring, huh?
Yeah. And fake somehow. Yeah.
Right. Which is boring. Yeah. Fake.
Which is boring.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very interested to watch just the yoga movement over the coming years. I actually like very much where it seems to be going on many levels, and there's like this purification that's naturally seems to be happening of the, like male teacher kind of perfect being personas that always end up crumbling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And and now just starting to experience as like what is life really about, and what is life really like in a human body, no matter how advanced or whatever our perception of advanced a person's consciousness is, still in a human body, right. And you still have all the tattvas, all the elements, all the feelings, emotions, and desires, and it's easy to kind of project this sense of perfection.
Right, and we think that that's what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, my experience is like the sweetest moments in my life have come out of like the most difficult times. Whether it's like in my relationship with my wife, or my children, my son. I don't have multiple children. My child, and then moving from there, and then like the yoga practice, meditation practice, make sure is that I have connectivity to something, to something that is animating the whole show, and without ability to describe or attempt to describe like what that is. Right. I don't pretend to know what it is. I enjoy the mystery. But so how do you relate to in terms of like how do you relate to yoga as a path, like not so much as like an objective, as if there's some objective, but what is it that you are using yoga for in your life? Like, how do you relate to it?
I think right now, it's been a central piece of my own practice and also in my teaching for a long time, but I can sense it expanding now because I've lost interest in other parts a little bit. Is the capacity for us to really feel. Using the heart or looking at the heart as a container, and having our practice be a space to genuinely sit with whatever discomfort is there, with whichever emotion has arisen from the experience that we're in that day. So less about, I perfect this pose and it's going to do this with my body and I reach this other level and I'm going to find total purity, peace, all of this. It's more for me coming to my mat and crying uncontrollably for 30 minutes, whether it's just because my mat is that safe space or because that's my quiet time of my day or because I'm in a challenging pose or I'm surrendering to something, that's the most sacred thing I can do. And I'm just realizing more and more that the emotional component of that in terms of getting to know myself in those uncomfortable places, like there's grief here, there's jealousy here, there's comparison, there's frustration, instead of, my practice, I'm Zen now, this is my peace. It's not always peace. Yeah. So I think using yoga to propel me deeper into my own humanity versus looking for some sort of divinity, it's like I'm chasing my own tail the whole time. And then it doesn't become something I reach for all the time, but it's just something that's already happening. Like I'm doing that work all the time. And my time on the mat is when it gets clear, So I try to, I don't know. A lot of my students joke a lot, like we cry in all the classes all the time. And I guess that's part of my gift is I have an ability to teach that pulls into the heart in that sense. And I could never do that if I didn't have the loss and the grief and the pain and all the things that I had to go through in my life. So in a way, it's all a blessing. But that's what yoga is for me right now. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So it's kind of like it sounds like it's like almost like an art of metabolizing life, and the yoga is kind of a catalyst to help like a healthy metabolization of life experience. Right. And it can be as simple as that.
Yeah. And I think if we don't,
Yeah.
we see that in the world today, what happens when we don't have space to process, when we can't metabolize, when we walk around our whole lives holding on to every wound, every trauma, every moment of pain. It becomes really hard to sustain any level of peace in our lives. And then we act that out into the world, and we see more violence, more disconnect. And my greatest teacher there is, of course, my toddler. She's 3 years old. Whenever she's sad, she cries it out, and then it's over.
Yep.
She's angry, and then it's done. She's joyful. The joy is this big. There's no moment in her that says, wait, is it appropriate for me to feel? Oh, not now. I'll swallow it, and then later today, And then later today doesn't come.
Yeah, I was always amazed when my son was young, how quickly he could go from like pure joy to pure whatever, rage, or not rage, but screaming, is impressive.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm learning so much about, from her, and that even I've been really, I feel almost like I'm in a scientific experiment with her when it comes to the idea of tantrums or meltdowns. I don't like those terms, but I don't know what else to call them. But when she has one of those moments where it's too much, it's just totally too much, and she loses her shit, and she's on the ground, face down in the dirt, screaming at everybody for seemingly no reason. Like, I don't know what triggered it in her. And I'm realizing more and more that if I can take those moments and not go into this is inappropriate, this is disturbing people, this is not okay, and I can just be there in that, like really, really, really practice with her in that moment of just not trying to fix her problems, not trying to stop it.
Loving
there
her.
is unbelievable connection that happens there. It's almost godlike in a sense where normally I would kind of lose it, and it would be horribly hard. If I get really, really, really present, I don't know. It's the release that comes through her. It's like whatever was built up through the day, it moves through her, and then it's over. And that's why children can be so light all the time. We see a child and we smile. I think we're supposed to have those meltdowns, like it's part of the human experience to feel some sort of divinity through the end of it all. Like, I don't know, it's teaching me how the everyday things, it's all meant to be that way, Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's trippy, but it's also so, at least for me, it's very true.
Yeah. It's very trippy to me. The whole experience of life is like trippy to me. The whole thing's a psychedelic experience. Really. I don't need to add to it at this time. The whole thing is like, whoa. And like a little baby's like looking at their hands when they first come out, like, what is that? What is this organism that we're inhabiting, That's my wife and I talk about that all the time. It's like, you don't need to make anything spiritual. Everything is already that way. Everything is like, so I'll sometimes get bored when it's like, talking about spirituality. Most of the time, if I'm not teaching, I want to be talking about basketball or music or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I find it's the same flow of prana, same flow of energy in every activity, no matter what it is. If you're existing. I was gonna say if you're on planet Earth, but
we are.
and perhaps elsewhere. That's cool. Yeah. I love your grounded, real, practical energy that you come with it. Yeah. Well, just a couple little quick ones, and we'll wrap it up. What's a favorite book?
Wow. Power of Now is like a go-to, but anything Ram Dass for me, like Ram Dass was my main man.
Oh.
So yeah, Be Here Now is the one thing I always pack. So I guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you go over to Maui some and visit him? No. Oh.
And I had this all of last year, my husband told me after he passed, he's like, once a week you mentioned like, hey, let's book Maui. Let's book it.
You didn't need to.
I didn't need to. No.
I have a dear friend who is one of his caretakers for the last, couple decades in Maui. And we were together on New Year's Eve this year, because we met in San Francisco for the Grateful Dead shows that were happening there. And he, and he was obviously very close with Ram Dass, and he had just passed away like the previous week. But he felt like he would be more with him in the energy field of the dead, than even over in Maui. And he had all these people like And so then the cremation was going to be happening that day while we were there. So he went out, because he met Ram Dass in the Bay Area. And so he went out, because we were all going to meet for brunch that morning before the shows later that night. He went out on the water in the marina, like over by the Golden Gate Bridge, while Ram Dass was being cremated, and just had experienced it there. But he said all these people, because he's a protector spirit. He's like a gatekeeper guy. He's a type of guy it's nice to have around you. And so many people were just like upset, he was telling me, because they couldn't come to the cremation. There's a limited amount of people that comes to it, and it's just like, he was saying, they kind of missed the whole point. You know, you don't have to be there. You know what I mean? Like, you're as connected to him in Aruba or wherever you were, you know, with the book. Like, that book changed our lives for so many of us. We did hang out with him a couple times. I got to bring my son. And so we got, this was a few years ago, and he signed, and so my son has a copy now of Be Here Now with a little love letter from Ram Dass that he wrote inside of it. So that thing, the real stuff is, I think, like, that book will never get old, just like great music. Real music with real nod never goes old. Like Marvin Gaye is never going to be old. Jerry Garcia is never going to get old. You know what I mean? Yeah. What kind of music you like?
I like a little bit of everything. I'm a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. Yeah,
cool.
Stevie Nicks, love.
Yes.
But when I come here, I listen to a lot of like Nicola Cruz, like a lot of the Envision.
Yeah, good house music.
Yeah.
I love good house music. What's a movie you love?
A movie I love. Oh, it's a long time ago. I feel like I sat down.
You don't watch very many movies?
We get into like some shows sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
what's
like, a good show you love?
Oh, but we watch like a lot of weird like true crime and like mystery. I love the OA. Did you watch that one?
I did watch that one.
That
I watched the first season of it.
First season was fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
Cool. Right on. So you're teaching some more this week?
I'm teaching tomorrow, 5 o'clock.
Good.
Yeah, if you have space, come join me. Yeah.
I'm planning on it.
I'll be right over there.
Yeah, right on. Cool. Well, thanks so much for doing this, especially I know with your family and your daughter. And really appreciate you taking a little time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Thank you to Rachel for being a part of it. Check her out, yogagirl.com, Yoga Girl on social media platforms. Thanks so much to the Life Force Academy for making this podcast happen. Thanks everyone to you for listening. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. If you feel inspired to do so, leave us a rating or a review. Help inspire others to check it out. And thanks so much, as always, to Simrit Project for the superb sounds and great music. Check her out. Her new album, live in Los Angeles in 2019. It's on your Spotify, on your Apple Music, wherever you get your music. You're hearing a little of it right now. Lots of love, everyone. Another episode coming real soon. Take care.